Hello, everyone. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself there, but my name is Amanda Love, and I'm presently pursuing my master's in forestry. And I'm just here to introduce and moderate the panel today on innovation and regeneration, the quest for sustainability in agriculture and forestry. Right now, the issue of sustainability across the board is obviously a very pressing and present issue. And my, limited experience as someone who is pretty young with the forestry and agricultural industry has shown that there has been a trend of stagnancy in the field in the past. And unfortunately, in many areas, a trend towards a lack of sustainability. And so it's my good fortune to have the opportunity to moderate this panel, and I'd love to have the panelists introduce themselves, beginning with you, Ethy.
Thanks, Amanda, and hello, everyone. I'm Ethy Levy, joining tonight from Israel. I'm an impact investor focusing mostly on agri, food, and climate. The nexus of those three very important topics. I've been dealing in that space for over 20 years, and I'll be sharing a bit more about what I do after the introductions.
If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, Martin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Martin. I'm the founder and CEO of Viridis Terra. I'm a forester by trade. So I did forest engineer and founded a company that specializes in restoration of degraded land. So looking forward to discuss a bit about the innovation and the things we are working hard to make sure we have a better agricultural and forestry sector and on natural resource sector in general. So thank you.
Thank you. And now you, Lynn.
Yeah, thank you very much. So my name is Lynn Rochefort. I'm speaking to you today from the province of Quebec. I'm a professor at Universite Laval, specialized in plant ecology and the ecological restoration of degraded ecosystem. Speak to you more later.
Thank you all so much for introducing yourself. So I guess we'll go right into you talking more about your background and whatever else you have to present and say to us today.
Thanks, Amanda, and really good on you for taking the moderation of a panel. It's I know it's sometimes overwhelming experience, but you've been really good with all the preparation and everything. So we'll try and make it interesting for everyone. So I'll share a bit about my background. I don't come from academia, so I think I'm the odd one out here. I studied law and economics and started my career in the Ministry of Industry and Trade of Israel. And I was a diplomat for about 10 years, so was posted in different countries. And the first countries I was posted in was Thailand. And the big part of what we were doing in Thailand was really to bring innovation and in many sectors, but mostly in agriculture and water technologies. And one of my first initiatives was to create an innovation, a training center for agricultural technologies that really became a regional training center for farmers that would come from Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Thailand, obviously, and be exposed to new technologies in agriculture. And I think that's where I fell in love with this sector, seeing the impact that it had on so many people and what a little improvement in the way people were practicing agriculture could bring. Fast forward, I was posted in Australia for 5 years. And that's where I was exposed to the issues of climate and environment. They're, really were leading in that space, and they were much more advanced than Israel. And that's where really, I first came across all the carbon emissions and the importance of the soil health and carbon sequestration. And this is something that when I came back to Israel after my posting in Australia, I really tried to bring to the ecosystem. So started many activities in that space, both in terms of ecosystem building, but also exposing entrepreneurs that were looking for new ideas to that space and to the opportunities that lied in that space. I did a couple of things in that area. One of them was to establish an innovation hub for agri-food and climate in Australia, but with very strong links to other ecosystems, Israel being the first one, obviously, since I'm here. And we linked academia, entrepreneurs, investors, and government. So this is something that we really brought into the Australian ecosystem to try and enhance innovation. In Israel, there's a very, very strong connection between the different players. We call it, 1.6 degrees of separation, meaning that in less than 2 phone calls, you can get to anyone that you want in Israel. And in Australia, it was very siloed, and we decided that would be our first step to enhance innovation. And we really created the Bridge Hub, which really brought together all those players, and also connecting researchers and entrepreneurs from Australia with other country and other ecosystem to really try and not reinvent the wheel each time, but bring the efforts of each side together to move faster. Because I think that when we speak about climate and innovation, climate and environment, we really need to move a bit faster. So that's one of the initiatives. And as I mentioned, I'm an impact investor, so I see lots of technologies, mostly early stage. That's my area of passion. Anything related to agriculture, nutrition, soil health is a big part of what we're doing. And Regen Ag, which I know is part of the conversation today. So that's an area that we're very focused on, trying to turn regenerative agriculture into a more commercial agriculture. And luckily, we see lots of entrepreneurs that decide to focus on that space, and we see lots of innovation coming in that area. So I'm very optimistic about the future. So that will be my introduction, and I'm happy to elaborate a bit later.
Thank you so much. That was an excellent introduction, and I'm looking forward to asking more questions later. I'll give myself later. Martin, if you would like to do the same thing, essentially.
Great, yeah, sounds good. So Martin, I was born and raised on a dairy farm. So I was in Quebec, like Lynn is from Quebec too, so in the province of Quebec in Canada. So I was very close to land, agricultural field, animals, nature at very young age. We were managing my father woodlot every fall, sustainably managing it. And one thing my parents showed me is that if you want to ensure this land would continue to produce goods and services that we need, you need to take care of it. So that was something very important that he showed me at a very young age, that you cannot just take and without taking care of that land, if you want to ensure it will stay productive and continue to produce as much these goods and services that we need for economy. And after that, after I finished high school, I went to do a technical degree in forestry for 3 years. And when I finished, I decided I wanted to start living new experiences. So I moved to West Canada, started to work in the natural resource sector, so mining, oil and gas. And that's where I started to see the impact that the exploitation of natural resources had on land. So that was, and I always say it's very important to exploit the natural resources, because everything we build, we use our phone, computer, food, cars, houses, everything is made of good and service of natural resources. So it's very important to use it for our lives in the economy, but it's even more important to do it sustainably. So after that experience, I decided to go back to university, did a bachelor degree in international forestry, specialization in the forest sciences, and started to also do exchange in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is one of the leader in the world in sustainable management of natural resources, forests, conservation. So I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to live this experience and start seeing for my own eyes how can we start improving the way we manage our land. And then I lived after that also in Ecuador, so Costa Rica and Ecuador, and work in 4 different countries in Africa. And every time I was seeing a lot of degradation at the landscape level of land that was producing in the past, but it's not producing anymore because of the extractive approach that we had in the past. So it's we were just going, take the timber, take the food, or take the minerals that don't care about what's going to happen after. And so for me, that was very important to start finding new solutions, new technologies to bring solution to restore this land, and then after that, ensure sustainable management of these land. So I went back to do a master degree at Laval University in Quebec in agroforestry, but specialized in ecological restoration of degraded land, especially mine sites. So I was developing new technologies to grow forests directly on waste rock tillings without soil, with very low inputs. And then so that was a research-based master degree. And then when I graduated, so I was looking to different companies that I could work for, but I was not seeing, for me, someone that was bringing a real solution to the problem. So within 6 months, in 2015, I founded Viridis Terra. My goal was to start bringing new technology to make restoration more effective, but also mobilize a multidisciplinary team that will go after that big problem of land degradation around the world. Right now, there's over 2 billion hectares of degraded land in the world. It's 2 times the size of Canada. So it's so a lot of, and when you look at the problem, about half right now of the global GDP is at risk because of nature degradation, because our economy is highly linked to nature and the goods and services that is produced, and also cause a lot of prime on climate change. So about a quarter of all global emissions come from deforestation, land use change, and degradation. And also we are losing about 10,000 times faster species right now than we used to because of that degradation of land. So Viridis Terra, we started first in the mining sector because that was the place where that was the most mature. At the time, there were new legislation coming out that was, for example, in Canada, in the 2010, 2013, we started to see new legislation that the provincial government, they were not taking the land back after 5 years of closing the mine. So that was the case in the past. And so that brought some additional pressure on companies because they have to manage environmental liabilities for decades if they don't do the restoration correctly. So that brought some opportunities. And that's where we started to bring more approach on creating biodiversity, ensuring sustainability of that restoration, bringing our technologies, which are bioformulation that allow with very low input, that allow to establish seed cuttings or seedlings directly on highly degraded land, or biofertilizers that are microbial inoculant that allow to increase nutrition and productivity of trees and ecosystem on these degraded land, to these companies to show them we can restore and with using natural processes to accelerate the natural ecosystem or a new ecosystem that we want to restore. So that's where for the 5 years we were like developing the technologies, doing pilot project in Canada, in Caribbean, also in Africa. And then we started to commercialize these technologies in 2021 at scale right now. So in 2017, we started to, I wanted to mention that the mining sector or the oil and gas, it's only 1%, about 1% of the land that is has been degraded in the past. So in 2017, we started to expand our activities into other sectors, more linked to forestry, agriculture. So land that was degraded by slash and burns, unsustainable agriculture, deforestation. So we started to adapt the technologies and do these projects. And so usually they were funded by governments that want to support adaptation, mitigation to climate change from in developing countries, from Canada, US. So allow us to really optimize and show that these technology can work on different ecosystem, different level of degradation. And one thing we were saying is that following the Paris Agreement, there was so much commitment to restore millions, hundreds of millions of hectares of land, of forest to fight climate change, as a means to fight climate change. But the challenge is a lot of these the landowners don't have the capital to do the restoration. So that's where, and to be able to start working on tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands hectares per year of restoration brings a lot of operational challenges to scale up and work on at these large landscape level. So we started to develop our new business model that include the biotechnologies, but also we have a platform that automate all the restoration operations. So we can scale very quickly this operation, working with 1,000 different landholders on long-term contract. We signed them 30 years contract with them where we bring the capital, we bring the technology, we bring the technical assistance. Then after that, as the new forest, agroforest grows and when the goods and services are sold on the market, the benefits are shared equally between the project investors and the landholders. So that's the kind of business model that we developed to bring that solution to be able to scale this operation and bring these climate and nature goals and objective that we have in general. So right last year we were very lucky to sign one of the top Fortune 500 companies as a first big anchor clients that wants to have access to this natural capital, especially the carbon removal in the nature positive supply chain to bring his operation net zero and nature positive. So it was very exciting to show that everything we have built is starting to get traction, and for sure it's been a lot of challenges, but a lot of fun too to get to where we are at today. So very happy to share that experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a really good insight into a sort of less linear pathway into how you came to be in your position and founded your company and stuff. And I'm also looking forward to asking you a few more questions later on. And now, then.
Okay, thank you. I will take maybe a little bit of a different approach, like my academic background. I will share a PowerPoint and then just illustrate a little bit how I came to get specialized in my field and what I'm doing now related to agriculture. So I'm sharing here. This is now. Can you confirm, Mandy, that I'm full screen? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to talk to you is like just, the contribution I did in science in my career, which is really rebuilding peatland after resource extraction and how I got there. And then the future challenges, part of my research, which is the management of peatlands for agricultural production. And Martin, you just spoke about, the oil sand. For me, it was quite a shock. Like, when I first visited that and was invited 2005, said, oh my God, can wetland come back there? Like, you don't think that something is possible, but if we go a little bit by little bit, thing can be. So just to say that, I come from a region where I spoke French myself up to 22. We didn't even have a TV in English then. So from that region, she could see me. I'm the person that like a lot. Then when I was young, walking in the forest, we had a cottage, and I had several friends that were boys, and I thought it was so lucky because I was really early on attracted in natural science and history, like knowing my plants, my birds, but the natural science camp were only for boys only at that time, they were not inclusive of the woman, but we've gone some way towards that. And just to say that I'm a strong believer that, in your career that you want to develop, if you want to read the soil, decode the landscape, understand ecosystem, there's some basic skills that needs to be developed. And like either learn one portion of biodiversity, if it's trees or something like that, or geology. It can be like work now to become really good in Excel coding or GIS or something related to your interests. So just to say that from high school myself, I really developed interest in bird watching and vascular plant identification. And in those times, this is the type of books we had. There was not even like, the field guides that we have for birds now that are a lot easier. But for you, if ever you want to go into that, there's a lot of tools now that fantastic nature apps that can help us to identify. So it's to learn to use them and all that. And they're really great. I'm teaching with that right now. So I moved on myself to, once I really knew my vascular plants, when I arrived at the university, I decided to develop other skill, which really to know the mosses, like the diversity of liverwort and mosses. And that became really my botanical expertise. And then, you would think, oh, my dad was saying, what are you going to do with this? Mosses, knowing mosses and all that, it's not much. But my main scientific finding has been learning to manipulate these little tiny mosses with large scale machinery to really restore peatland on a large scale. And this is the type of result, like after only 6 years, and we've done now more than 140 sites in Canada of restoring 10,000 hectares of dry land back to peatland. But coming back to agriculture, in agriculture, peat is really a useful growing substrate. There's several reasons for that, because the sphagnum peat has really, really special characteristic that makes it a really good soil media for growing. And want it not, we know there's some peat-free campaign and some movement to change towards the cocoa fiber and all that. But for the mushroom industry, they did a lot of testing, and it's really not easy in terms of that, because there's more salinity. And then there's a lot of professional grower in greenhouses that are working with peat, and there's some reason sometimes why you cannot change to some of the other substrate. But how do we do now? How do we work so that we don't also impact too much where the peat comes from, that resource? So why using sphagnum peat? It's because it can hold 10 to 20% its own weight. It's very good at retaining nutrients. It has a natural porosity that is needed for healthy root development and root penetration. It has a low electric conductivity and pH level. It's easy to adjust it to the needs that we want. And there's a very low phytosanitary risk, like, for bacteria or fungus related disease. So just there's a lot reason why we are using it, and it's hard to stop all at once to use it. So the peat uses has a lot of benefits. It's essential for North American food security and well-being. It's used by a professional grower, 70%, and consumer gardener more like 30%. And it supports a wide range of usage, food production, the vegetable, fruits, herbs, mushrooms, and other product, for a total economic impact of $18 billion per year. So without going into the sectors, we still, want to say that we need to manage this wisely though. So as I said, I developed an expertise with mosses and how to grow mosses through the years during my career. And after several years of underscoring failure, like when you do research, it's not always successes. But there's a lot of failure too. Then commercial scale up is possible. So this is some of the steps we are doing. So where do I see the future in research in peatland management in relation to agriculture? I see three main parts in relation to agriculture. Is to produce, like to do sphagnum farming, to really produce the sphagnum fiber needed within the growing media. And we have farms here. Germany is developing farms, Chile, and then Japan now is embarking, and then South Korea and Finland as well. So just to say that there's several countries now trying to develop to see if we can grow sphagnum per se. Another part is what is very new. This is the latest research that I'm doing. It is what I call peat farming. So how maybe this is just a edicovariant floss sour. Like this is just a general picture. This is not the actual site, but it's how can we harvest the peat without touching the carbon stock of a peatland and without destroying the biodiversity on the top. And so this is a project we started to work since 2017. So it's like a revolution in one way, in the way of producing peat. And I'm just showing here, which is like something cutting, going and get just, the 10 centimeter of peat below, putting back all the vegetation and making sure that the peat would grow. Then maybe on a cycle of 8, 7, or 10 years, then we can go back and collect the peat again. So this is like, we have to be innovative. We need people in engineer. We need people in all types of way to find a nature-based solution. And then I think we should do the restoration of non-productive agricultural land. Here I'm talking mostly a lot in Northern Europe and thinking in North America. And looking at, we just done this estimation of peatland that is disturbed by anthropic activities in North America. And the number one is really agriculture, like close to 3 million hectares have been drained, wetlands or peatland. Here it's mostly peatland, not even wetlands, drained for agriculture. And that was true because there was a lot of subsidies in the 50s and after the Second World War for draining farmland and all that. And it went on up to, the beginning of the 2000s. But a lot of these land that were drained still remain unproductive, and sometimes they are abandoned by farmers because they still sink the machinery. There's too much peat. So we should look into this aspect. And here I'm just showing one example when I'm starting a research project in Laval, nearby Chicoutimi, where I was born actually, where this peatland that you see there used to be exactly 5 times larger, and all the land around used to be on the peatland, and all this was drained in the 30s, actually late 30s, 40s, 1943, to make space for 125 farms, but not all the farms now are active. So that's and this is really cutting edge research because there's never been done in Canada to restore what I call an agricultural peatland. They do a lot more. They have a lot more experience in Europe, but not in Canada. We've been looking for examples and all that, and we could not find any. So just to conclude, there's lots of job opportunity to find, nature-based solution for ecosystem that can be damaged by human activity, but mostly once we need a service from an ecosystem, we can find a solution. Anybody, because now I work, I see, Ethy, I know you've been working a lot through the world. And Martin, I never asked you, but I suppose you speak Spanish. I learned Spanish also, like to learn a second language, is a very a good skill. Invest in developing any skill like at early on in your career, because we have more time, when you're at high school or the college level and all that, a little bit. Like just my son, he became a very, very good computer and through gaming also. But now he works for Ducks Unlimited. He's a GIS specialist. He maps wetlands, for conservation planning. So like just I go all in. And then just a tip sometimes I give to my student to get to know how to work maybe at community level, at a local level. There's a lot of little conservation, preservation group around you, and they always need assistance and inputs. So do get involved. So that's about the main topics of how I got there, and that there's a lot more to be done, and we need all of you to put some water to the meal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you so much, all of you, actually. And they were all really great and very different presentations, which I think sort of highlight the lack of linearity in how you all got here. And I think that is an excellent perspective. And because you guys have such different pathways to being here on this panel, I just wanted to ask if you could give yourself, like your young self, around between 18 and 22, like that type of age, advice, given now that you know where your career took you, what advice would that be? And we'll start with you, Ethy.
Sure, thank you. And I really enjoyed your presentation, Lynn. I think that's what we see today, and I realized in the past 10 years, is that the workforce is very flexible, and we change jobs every couple of years. Maybe in academia it's a little bit different, but I've moved from civil servant to having a consultancy company, to becoming a manager of an investment fund. It's not something that I've planned, but I think that's the key element would be to be curious, to really be curious about things, and read about different topics, not just the one area, because today people are much more have kind of multi-skills, and we evolve, the same as technology is evolving. We're able to move from one title to another and one sector to another. So I think that at 18 sometimes you think, okay, what do I want to be in 15 to 20 years? But I think it should be what I'm curious about at this stage. What do I want to what passionate me to learn at this stage, and then later on you can change, you can add to your skills, you can kind of find your own path into this big world of opportunities.
Thank you. That's great advice. What about you, Martin?
One thing is very important for the future of all of us in sustainable development is we need to transform the whole economy, and that means every sector needs to be transformed. ET is in the finance sector. There is a lot of work to be done there. There's still a lot of financial institutions are feeding the crisis. They are investing in projects and companies that feed the crisis, not enough into new organization and projects and companies that bring solution to the sector. So a lot of work to be done in finance, natural resource, it's all level, forestry, agriculture, extractive sector, all of them, we need to transform this company into having positive impact on all levels. So it takes a lot of transformation, a lot of new ideas, a lot of innovation. So for me, there is so many opportunities. It's just important for the young to just find a purpose and something that is very close to their heart and go after it, work hard, persevere, and do whatever it takes to succeed, to help transform this towards a green economy. I think it's we all need to work towards that, and I think the young are the one that will do the job, because one thing we see sometimes is that there is a lot of resistance to change, but we have no choice to change right now. And I think with the knowledge that the young has developed in the last 10, 20 years with the new education system in place, I believe they are well aware of what is happening, and they will have the power soon to transform. And so go after all the sector, the one that you like, and transform it.
Excellent advice. Thank you. And I'd love to get the academic perspective from you and where your path and what advice you'd give.
Yeah, I'd say it's really the time to try different things, and often tell, like, first year undergrad, or I'd say even before that, more like from high school. And that's what I told to my two sons. Try different summer job, very, very different one, to see where are your interests. It's not easy to know, beforehand. And that can really, really helps. And even myself, I apply it. Sometimes you are comfortable with a job, or it's nice and fun. Sometimes I have students that after 2 years, they come back to my lab, they want to work again another summer. I said, well, I think you know enough the trade within my lab. You should go and see another province, change the scene. So that's I think, try different summer job. To realize. I tried music myself. It's really not my cup of tea, things like that. So and then I have a son that is really, really good with it. So like that. And then I strongly believe we need to open up to diversity, in the sense that taking some time to travel, but I'd say travel not in a way of how did I say, just switching different places to visit. Okay, I've seen Mount Rushmore, or I've seen the Eiffel Tower, but more to go in a place to live, to see how the people are living, to see a different culture. And it really helps to see that problems are not viewed the same way. Like even ecological restoration of the degraded system, there's constraints that are not the same from one country to the next, So just a quick example, although I think it's still a bad idea, but when I'm working on restoring peatland, I do it for a moss cover system, so an open system. When you go in Europe at first with Ireland, they were thinking mostly of planting trees, because they lost all their trees 500 years ago, with the Viking and the boat and all that. So there's a different perspective. And for them, it was more important the biodiversity than the carbon stock. That was at the beginning of my career. Now they're changing that. They understand the carbon stock is important, but it helps to, when you go and travel, to understand a little bit the differences, this cultural and historical, why we're not thinking all the same way. So I encourage that, mobility when we're young. This is when it's easiest. It's easier a little bit when we don't yet have a family or kids that are going to school or don't want to leave the friends and all that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'd love to open it up for more general Q&A now. I'm not sure. There is presently no questions on the attendee hub, but if anyone has any questions, please ask. I also have questions myself in case there aren't any questions in the next minute or so. I'll just give it a quick moment so that I'm not just asking all my questions and not giving anyone else a chance. Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, Ethy, I just wanted to say that I fully agree with you. I've been in Australia a couple of times, and in my field, like you're talking about agriculture, but in my field in ecological restoration, there's big groups there also and thinker and developing all the bases and the standards for ecological restoration, and I still work with. So in that sense, it seems that I don't know if because the land was so big, but they are really aware about ecosystem management base for finding solution.
Oops, sorry.
No, it's okay. I know a few people that are in your space of restoration, and some of them visited Israel actually, and many areas that used to be wetlands. They're now trying to build a program to restore them into wetlands because so it's interesting to see it's not a huge landscape like in Canada or in Australia, but it's still a very important part of the ecological system here.
Sorry, there's a question. They asked, how long does it take to restore disturbed areas typically? And I think that's sort of on you, Lynn, and you, Martin. But yeah, so if you could.
I can give some answer. Like, I mean, I'm a specialist, like I said, peatlands, wetlands, but I will go with the peatlands. And it really depends on the little bit the criteria you're looking at. For me now, like working on a big landscape, let's say restoring 40 hectares peatland, vegetation usually will take about 4 or 5 years to come back. And we know that we have things like that, like within 5 years, 82% of all the biodiversity of the vascular bands comes back. What do not come back is things that are harder life cycle, reproductive life cycle, like orchids or something like that. But within, we know between 9 and 12 years, depending on where you are and all that, we'll have the carbon sequestration. So we are able to take the CO2 from the air back into the ground on a permanent basis. So depending on the criteria using, it might be a bit of different time scale. But I'd say, for these ecosystems that form maybe sometime 10,000, 9,000 or 7,000 years ago, within 25 years, they can be really, really in good shape, having back, microstructure, different microhabitats, and insects like dragonflies, birds are coming back also within 20 years, more or less. So that's kind of the time frame.
I could add that, Lynn said, also, they always depend on the ecosystem you're working in. Of course, if you're in the tropics, you don't have winters. The ecosystem is a lot more productive, especially in the humid forests. For example, the Amazon forest. You can really recover within few years the structure and the diversity of a normal indigenous forest or ecosystem But when you work, for example, up north, 800 meters in elevation, where you have only 4 weeks of summer, and plants are like 10 centimeter high after 30 years, so it may take a lot longer to retrieve that initial ecosystem structure. So and it always depends on the objective of restoration. Sometimes you also want to have an ecosystem that do not go back to the natural ecosystem that was there before, but maybe that produce like an agroforestry system that produce also crops, agri-food products, timber. Then sometimes you can very quickly, within 2 or 3 years, already have an impact on an LT ecosystem that is producing. Of course, there's always about cost benefit. So you can accelerate restoration in some place under certain conditions, but it will be more expensive to do it. So you always have to deal with that cost benefit. Maybe it's better. Sometimes it's better to say it's going to take longer, but it's more on the cost side. It's the cost benefit side. It's more attractive. So it's.
Thank you very much. I don't see any. There is one other question, however, because the session is almost over, and I know you wanted to share a inspiration of Beaudoin. I think we'll do that, and then the question can be answered perhaps after the session, not within the session. I mean, yeah.
Just give me a second.
Of course, no worries.
So this video, just to show, I hope it will inspire some of you to go after some of the biggest challenges we have in the world and create a better world altogether. So this show a bit of what we do at Viridis Terra, and we've been working out to accomplish.
La degradación del ecosistema amazónico es un problema que llama mucho la atención a nivel mundial.
Como le digo, a 35 años que te estoy hablando de este año, ya se ha visto un cambio diferente totalmente.
Viridis Terra, c'est une entreprise à mission en technologie verte qui se spécialise dans la restauration et le reboisement à grande échelle de terres dégradées. Présentement, plus de 25% des émissions de gaz à effet de serre est causée par la déforestation, la dégradation des terres et le changement d'utilisation des terres. Ça a un impact sur les communautés, ils n'ont plus de ressources en eau, en nourriture, ils ont des problèmes de santé. C'est là qu'on peut avoir un impact énorme pour créer de la richesse pour les futures générations. C'est important de penser aux prochaines générations parce que c'est ceux qui vont être le plus impactés par les crises climatiques et écologiques qu'on vit présentement. Viridis Terra, avec son véhicule d'investissement To Their Life, permet à tous ceux qui veulent en faire partie de joindre l'aventure. Le but, c'est vraiment de rendre accessible la lutte contre les changements climatiques puis la lutte contre la dégradation de la nature. Dans le modèle d'affaires, on amène la biotechnologie avec la technologie et l'innovation sociale ensemble.
Y entonces lo que nosotros hacemos en colaboración es apuntar hacia objetivos que permitan solucionar necesidades de poblaciones que son aliadas a esta propuesta, ¿no? De recuperación del ecosistema, de producir de una forma limpia, también valorar los conocimientos tradicionales de los pueblos indígenas.
Vinieron unos ingenieros a sensibilizarnos en temas de la agroforestería. Una idea que el tema de la reforestación es un tema muy importante para y eso nosotros hemos visto, hemos llegado a pensar que sembrar madera o trabajar en temas de agroforestería es muy rentable.
Que ce soit des individus, des entreprises ou des investisseurs institutionnels, vous pouvez tous devenir carboneutres réduire vos émissions de gaz à effet de serre tout en créant de la richesse pour tous et nous aider à accomplir notre mission qui est de restaurer et reboiser des millions d'hectares de terres dégradées sur la planète.
Pienso de que el apoyo de Viridis, la tecnología desarrollada por Cepiagri, van a complementar muy bien en cuanto a esta necesidad urgente que vamos teniendo en la Amazonía, ¿no?
Regeneration, un mot, c'est avenir.
Thank you. Thank you all, and thank you for that video. And yeah, I think that's all the time we have for today, unfortunately, because I know there's plenty more questions to be asked and more to be spoken about. But I really appreciate all of the time you gave today and all the information and your answers.